Joining us on the program right now, Dr. Timothy Wheeler with Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. By the way, our rundowns can be made available to anybody with a subpoena, by the way. We'll be happy to hand over our rundowns each and every day for a guest list. Dr. Wheeler, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Cam. Thank you.
Now, thank you for coming on the program. Saw this story from NBC News. The American Academy of Pediatrics sent more than 100 pediatricians to Capitol Hill earlier this month. They were not warning about the number of deaths caused by medical mistakes in this country every year. Instead, they were actually demanding more gun control, right?
That's right, Cam. And that NBC News article you mentioned is just part of a larger media surge that we're seeing this week and a little bit before this week. This is obviously a coordinated effort. There was a piece also in the thinkprogress.org website. It's a liberal progressive website, pretty much anti-gun, and it's almost word for word from the NBC piece. LA Times ran a front page piece today. It didn't mention pediatricians, but it talks about the anti-gun forces trying to do CPR on their failed attempt to push national gun control. Miserably failed, I should add, in the Senate. So this is not surprising, and the pediatricians have long identified themselves as a group that is dedicated to taking away our gun rights.
All right, let me give you, I think, an example of like the dishonest science here that we're seeing. Dr. Matthew Miller of the Harvard Injury Control Research Center said, where there are more guns in the United States, there are more people dying. He divided the U.S. population in half, classifying half as living in high gun ownership states and half in low gun ownership states. In the high gun states, he said, 21,148 people were murdered between 1998 and 1988, and 1997, compared with 7,266 in the quote-unquote low gun states. First of all, Dr. Wheeler, that sounds like a really arbitrary way of dividing up states. Just take half, and those are the high gun states, and the other half are the low gun states.
It is, Cam. And Dr. Miller and his colleagues, the crew from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, some of the other big East Coast and other university programs who are dedicated to advancing gun control are not particular about the scientific methodology they use. These academic departments put out not facts, but what we call factoids. These are figures that are strung together to have a maximum impact on people and to try to push their emotional buttons about gun control. But nobody should make the mistake of thinking that Dr. Miller's or any of the other Harvard Injury Control Center or Johns Hopkins research on this subject is real science. It's what we call advocacy science.
Yeah, well, to that end, this NBC piece quotes Dr. Arthur Kellerman, and they quote him as saying, "I am widely known as the widely discredited Dr. Arthur Kellerman."
I like that. You know what that means, Cam? That means that we have been successful over the years.
Because Dr. Kellerman has presented studies that purport to show you are, a jillion times more likely to be murdered if you have a gun in your home and things like that, right?
That's right. But he has been discredited in the larger criminology community. We know this. And so I think it's significant that he should say this in a major media interview, that he's widely known as the widely discredited Dr. Arthur Kellerman. There's a lot of truth to that.
Talking with Dr. Timothy Wheeler of Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Dr. Wheeler, is this going to continue, you think?
It's going to continue, Cam, but I think that at this point, the forces on our side, the forces in favor of preserving our firearm rights, are winning. I mean, we've won on Capitol Hill. These few articles put out by the major media that are friendly, they're basically cheerleaders for the Kellermans and the Millers and the other anti-gun doctors. We shouldn't place too much stock in them. They're just blips on the screen. The real truth is what happened in Washington a couple of weeks ago when all of the national gun control initiatives got shut down in the Senate. That's reality.
Well, listen, Dr. Wheeler, I appreciate you coming on the program, sir, and I know we'll be talking again very soon.
Thank you, Cam.
You bet. Dr. Tim Wheeler with the Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership joining us on the program.